现在是全国大学英语4、6级考试英语4级听力部分试音时间，请考生调试好收音机的频率和音量。现在是全国大学英语4、6级考试英语4级听力部分试音时间，请考生调试好收音机的频率和音量。全国大学英语4、6级考试英语4级听力部分考试现在开始。
听力考试马上开始，请戴上耳机。录音开头有一段试听声音，约1分钟。听力考试将在试音结束后正式开始。现在开始试音。
In this part, there are 3 sections.You will hear 3 news reports in Section A, 2 long conversations in Section B, and 3 passages in Section C. At the end of each news report, conversation and passage, there are a number of questions. All the listening materials and questions will be spoken only once. After you hear a question, you must choose the best answer from the 4 choices, marked A, B, C, and D. Then, mark the corresponding letter.on answer sheet 1 with a single line through the center.
试音结束。听力考试现在开始。
College English Test, Band 4, Part 2, Listening Comprehension. Section A, Directions. In this section, you will hear 3 news reports. At the end of each news report, you will hear 2 or 3 questions.Both the news report and the questions will be spoken only once. After you hear a question, you must choose the best answer from the 4 choices marked A, B, C, and D. Then mark the corresponding letter on answer sheet 1 with a single line through the center.
News Report 1.
The International Labour Organization says the number of people without jobs is increasing.In its latest update on global employment trends, the agency says projections of the number of unemployed people this year range from 210 million to nearly 240 million people. The report warns that 200 million poor workers are at risk of joining the ranks of people living on less than $2 per day in the past 3 years.The Director General of the International Labour Organization, Juan Somavia, notes that some countries have taken measures to address the effects of the global crisis. However, he points out that many countries have not done so, and based on past experiences, it takes 4 to 5 years after economic recovery for unemployment to return to pre-crisis levels.Mr. Somavia says the International Labour Organization is proposing a global jobs agreement to deal with unemployment.
Its key objective is to place at the centre of recovery efforts measures that will generate higher levels of employment and provide basic social protection for the most vulnerable.
Questions 1 and 2 are based on the news report you have just heard. Question 1.What is the news report mainly about? Question 2. What does Juan Somavia, Director General of the International Labour Organization, say?
News Report 2. The Tunisian government said Monday that 45 people had been killed after gunmen attacked a town near the border with Libya. The Interior and Defence Ministries said that the Tunisian government had closed its 2 border crossings with Libya because of the attack. The Tunisian military has sent reinforcements and helicopters to the area, and authorities have been hunting several attackers who are still at large. The violence came amid increasing international concern about Islamic State extremists in Libya. Officials of the Tunisian government are especially worried after dozens of tourists were killed in the attacks in Tunisia last year. Defence Minister Farhat Horchani said last week that German and American security experts were expected to come to help Tunisia devise a new electronic video supervision system on its border with Libya. Tunisia was targeted last year by 3 attacks that left 70 people dead and were claimed by Islamic State.
Questions 3 and 4 are based on the news report you have just heard. Question 3. What did the Tunisian government do after the gunmen's attack? Question 4. What were German and American security experts expected to do in Tunisia? News Report 3. The U.S. Postal Service announced today that it is considering closing about 3,700 post offices over the next year because of falling revenues. Facing an $8.3 billion budget deficit this year, closing post offices is one of several proposals the Postal Service has put forth recently to cut costs. Last week, for example, Postmaster General Pat Donahoe announced plans to stop mail delivery on Saturdays, a move he says could save $3 billion annually. We are losing revenue as we speak, Donahoe said. We do not want taxpayer money. We want to be self-sufficient, so like any other business, you have to make choices. Dean Granholm, the Vice President for Delivery and Post Office Operations, said the first wave of closings would begin this fall. He estimated that about 3,000 postmasters, 500 station managers, and between 500 and 1,000 postal clerks could lose their jobs.
Questions 5 to 7 are based on the news report you have just heard. Question 5. What is the U.S. Postal Service planning to do? Question 6. What measure has been planned to save costs? Question 7. What will happen when the proposed measure comes into effect?
Section B. Directions. In this section, you will hear 2 long conversations. At the end of each conversation, you will hear 4 questions. Both the conversation and the questions will be spoken only once. After you hear a question, you must choose the best answer from the 4 choices, marked A, B, C, and D. Then, mark the corresponding letter on answer sheet 1 with a single line through the centre.
Conversation 1. Good evening and welcome to this week's Business World, the program for and about business people. Tonight we have Mr. Stephen Kane, who has just taken over an established bicycle shop. Tell us, Mr. Kane, what made you want to run your own store?
Well, I've always loved racing bikes and fixing them. When I was working full-time as a salesman for a big company, I seldom had time to enjoy my hobby. I knew then that as soon as I had enough money to get my own business going, I'd do it. I had my heart set on it, and I didn't let anything stand in my way. When I went down to the bank and got a business loan, I knew I'd love being my own boss. Now my time is my own. I open the store when I want and leave when I want.
You mean you don't keep regular hours?
Well, the sign on my store says the hours are 10 to 6, but if business is slower than usual, I can just lock up and take off early.
Have you hired any employees to work with you yet?
Yeah, a couple of friends of mine who love biking as much as I do. They help me out a few days a week. It's great because we play cards or just sit around and talk when there are no customers.
Thank you, Mr. Kane. We wish you success in your new business.
Questions 8 to 11 are based on the conversation you have just heard. Question 8.
What is the woman doing?
Question 9.
What did Mr. Kane do before he took over the bicycle shop?
Question 10.
Why did the man take over a bicycle shop?
Question 11.
What do we learn about the people working in the shop?
Conversation 2.
Gosh, have you seen this, Richard?
Seen what?
In the paper. It says there's a man going round, pretending he's from the electricity board. He's been calling at people's homes, saying he's come to check that all their appliances are safe. Then he gets around them to make him a cup of tea, and while they're out of the room, he steals their money, handbag, whatever, and makes off with it.
But you know, Jane, it's partly their own fault. You should never let anyone like that in unless you're expecting them.
It's all very well to say that, but someone comes to the door and says electricity or gas, and you automatically think they're okay, especially if they flash a card at you.
Does this man have an ID then?
Yes, that's just it. It seems he used to work for the electricity board at one time. According to the paper, the police are warning people, especially pensioners, not to admit anyone unless they have an appointment. It's a bit sad. One old lady told them she'd just been to the post office to draw her pension when he called. She said he must have followed her home. He stole the whole lot.
But what does he look like? Surely they must have a description.
Oh, yes, they have. Let's see. In his 30s, tall, bushy dark hair, slight northern accent. Sounds a bit like you, actually.
Questions 12 to 15 are based on the conversation you have just heard. Question 12.
What does the woman want the man to read in the newspaper?
Question 13.
How did the man mentioned in the newspaper try to win further trust from the victims?
Question 14.
What is the warning from the police?
Question 15.
What does the woman speaker tell us about the old lady?
Section C. Directions. In this section, you will hear 3 passages. At the end of each passage, you will hear 3 or 4 questions. Both the passage and the questions will be spoken only once. After you hear a question, you must choose the best answer from the 4 choices, marked A, B, C and D. Then, mark the corresponding letter on answer sheet 1 with a single line through the centre.
Passage 1.
The period of engagement is the time between the marriage proposal and the wedding ceremony. 2 people agree to marry when they decide to spend their lives together. The man usually gives the woman a diamond engagement ring. That tradition is said to have started when an Austrian man gave a diamond ring to the woman he wanted to marry. The diamond represented beauty. He placed it on the 3rd finger of her left hand. He chose that finger because it was thought that a blood vessel in that finger went directly to the heart. Today, we know that this is not true. Yet the tradition continues. Americans generally are engaged for a period of about 1 year if they are planning a wedding ceremony and party. During this time, friends of the bride may hold a party at which women friends and family members give the bride gifts that she will need as a wife. These could include cooking equipment or new clothing. Friends of the man who is getting married may have a bachelor party for him. This usually takes place the night before the wedding. Only men are invited to the bachelor party. During the marriage ceremony, the bride and her would-be husband usually exchange gold rings that represent the idea that their union will continue forever. The wife often wears both the wedding ring and engagement ring on the same finger. The husband wears his ring on the 3rd finger of his left hand. Many people say the purpose of the engagement period is to permit enough time to plan the wedding. But the main purpose is to let enough time pass so the 2 people are sure they want to marry each other. Either person may decide to break the engagement. If this happens, the woman usually returns the ring to the man. They also return any wedding gifts they have received.
Questions 16 to 18 are based on the passage you have just heard. Question 16.
What was the diamond ring said to represent?
Question 17.
Why did the Austrian man place the diamond ring on the 3rd finger of the left hand of his would-be wife?
Question 18.
What is the chief advantage of having the engagement period?
Passage 2. Some people want to make and save a lot of money in order to retire early. I see people pursuing higher paying and increasingly demanding careers to accomplish this goal. They make many personal sacrifices in exchange for income today. The problem is that tomorrow might not come. Even if all goes according to plan, will you know how to be happy when you're not working if you spend your entire life making money? More importantly, who will be around for you to share your leisure time with? At the other extreme are people who live only for today. Why bother saving when I might not be here tomorrow, they argue. The danger of this approach is that tomorrow may come after all, and most people don't want to spend all their tomorrows working for a living. The earlier neglect of saving, however, makes it difficult not to work when you are older. You may be surprised to hear me say that if you must pick an extreme, I think it's better to pick the spend-all approach. As long as you don't mind continuing to work, assuming your health allows, you should be okay. At least you're making use of your money and hopefully deriving value and pleasure from it. Postponing doing what you love and being with people you love until retirement can be a mistake. It may never come. Retirement can be a great time for some people. For others, it is a time of boredom, loneliness, and poor health.
Questions 19 to 21 are based on the passage you have just heard. Question 19.
Why do some people pursue higher paying but demanding careers?
Question 20.
What is the danger facing people who live only for today?
Question 21.
What does the speaker seem to advocate?
Passage 3.
We don't choose friends on the basis of how much money they have, of course, but vast differences can be disturbing to both sides. Erin, for example, is single and earns a very good salary. Her friend Pat, a divorced mother of 3, is struggling to make ends meet. We're both frequent theatre goers, Erin explains, and I'd gladly pay for 2 tickets just to have Pat's company at plays and concerts. But she won't go anywhere unless she can pay her own way. I hate to go alone, so we both stay home. It all seems so silly. Pat sees the situation differently. After an unhappy marriage to a man who tried to control her without considering her wishes and feelings, she says, "It's very important to me to carry my own weight. I'm not comfortable in any relationship where all I do is take." The difficult situation finally changed when Erin moved recently. Pat's children were with their father, so she took a picnic lunch to her friend's new place, then spent the day helping her unpack and get settled. I was so grateful, Erin says, that I persuaded Pat to let me return the favour in my own way, with season tickets to our little theatre group. I think she's beginning to recognise that she contributes as much to our friendship as I do.
Questions 22 to 25 are based on the passage you have just heard. Question 22.
What do we learn about Pat?
Question 23.
What draws Erin and Pat together?
Question 24.
What does Erin do to return Pat's favor?
Question 25.
What do we learn about friendship from the passage?
This is the end of listening comprehension.
听力考试结束，请考生暂停作答，等待作答下一部分试题的指令。现在由监考员收答题卡1。